There's a few plays I look to sell and trade this week. So week one, we saw some plays you didn't expect go out there and break out. And some of these plays I don't think are going to keep it up. And after coming off big week ones, these are guys I would sell off immediately. First play, Javonte Williams of the Dallas Cowboys. So Javonte Williams, he had a big game, 20.4 fantasy points in PPR leagues, 15 carries, 54 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches, 10 yards versus the defending champ Philadelphia Eagles. So Javonte got off to an early start in that one. In the second half, this Cowboy offense didn't do much. I know week two, a pretty good matchup versus the New York Giants, where their defense really can't stop anyone. But Javonte Williams, the last couple seasons, we really haven't seen much out of him. And this Cowboy offense is going to be a pass-first offense, in my opinion. When you got a receiver like CeeDee Lamb, got George Pickens they traded for this offseason, got Jake Ferguson signing the contract extension in the offseason, got a gadget type of wide out like Keontae Turpin. So after Javonte coming off a big game, and like I said, it wasn't that great of a ball game. If you take one touchdown out of that, it was a mediocre game with 1440 fantasy points. So like I said, the 2 touchdowns really padded the stats a little bit for Javonte Williams, and definitely a running back in this type of offense I would sell this week. And next sells another running back, Travis Etienne of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Etienne, he had a monster ball game, 16 carries, 143 yards on 3 catches, 13 yards versus the Carolina Panthers in week one. But week two, it's going to be a different type of game at Cincinnati, one of the better offenses in the league. And Etienne, yes, when they're up, he's a solid running back for that. But when they're down, they're not going to run the football a whole lot. And he's not the greatest of receivers out of the backfield, even though I think he's still the favorite in catching the football out of the backfield between him, Tank Bigsby, obviously, and Bashal Tutin in the backfield for this Jacksonville Jaguar team. And also we saw Tank Bigsby, he wasn't really a factor, which was a good thing for Etienne. But like I said, last season, Etienne, he didn't do much. And week one, it was just a great matchup. And with that delay as well, I think helped some of these players in this game, where it was delayed for about an hour and a half. The Thunder and Lightning in that game. So Etienne coming off a big game. But that one big run where he went for 71 yards was a chunk of the action for Etienne. So after a big game like that, he's definitely a running back I would sell this week. The next player, Michael Pittman of the Indianapolis Colts. So Michael Pittman last season, it wasn't a good year for him. I know this offense was in disarray with Anthony Richardson banged up in and out of the lineup all season long for the Indianapolis Colts. Then obviously Joe Flacco was in there at times. Then they went back to Richardson. And Pittman, no doubt about it, week one, he had a big ball game, 6 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown on 8 targets. But Daniel Jones, we know throughout his career, he hasn't really been a quarterback to support a nice fantasy option in the receiving room. So Pittman, after coming off a big ball game in week two, a very tough matchup versus the Denver Broncos, one of the better defenses in the league, and he's going to most likely see Patrick Surtain, one of the best, if not the best corners in the league, on him majority of this game. He's definitely a sell-high option, is Michael Pittman. Too many times we've seen throughout his career he have a big game or two, a lot of people in on him, thinking he's going to be a breakout receiver and a big-time receiver for fantasy football. But obviously that just hasn't been the case, and once again I say go out there and sell Pittman when a tough matchup coming up versus Denver. And then in week 3, Tennessee, their defense is pretty solid as well. We saw in week 1. He's easily a sell-high option this week for me, is Michael Pittman. Going off a track record and going off the matchups coming up, the next player, another receiver, Chris Olave of the New Orleans Saints. So Chris Olave, he had a nice volume ball game in week 1, but once again, he was banged up a little bit, and Chris Olave's been a walking injury over the last few seasons. So he had 7 catches, 54 yards on 13 targets versus the Cardinals. We know this New Orleans team, they're going to be trailing all season long. Week 2 is going to be the same with San Francisco coming in town. But like I said, with the injuries throughout his career, and once again having another injury scare in week 1 already, is Chris Olave. I just want to wash my hands with him and get anything of decency in a deal, because it just looks like an injury is going to come sooner than later for Chris Olave. I know the volume's going to be there if healthy, but health has been a big issue and a big if, unfortunately, for Chris Olave. So I would sell him off this week. Next player, Deebo Samuel of the Washington Commanders. So Deebo, he had a nice game, but another play with a lot of injury concerns throughout his career. And Terry McLaurin, he's not up to snuff, obviously, with his conditioning, where he sat out pretty much all training camp, where he's going to take a couple weeks for McLaurin to get going and play a full capacity and snap count capacity as well. So week 1, a monster game, no doubt about it, for Deebo Samuel. 7 catches, 77 yards on 10 targets, 19 rush yards on a rushing touchdown on his only one rush attempt. But like I said, he's still this third option in this offense with Jayden Daniels, with his throwing and his running ability. Terry McLaurin, he's going to get his legs under him and get things going. Where, like I said, he only had 4 targets in week 1 and 2 catches, 27 yards in that one. And also Zach Ertz is a factor in this offense as well, where we saw he found the end zone in week 1. So with all those factors, and Debo, a lot of injury problems over the last few seasons, he's definitely a player I look to sell this week. The next player, Jayden Reed by Packers. So this receiving room all season long is going to be frustrating. But if I had to pick one guy that's going to step up when it's all said and done this season and have a big year, it's going to be Matthew Golden. For me, the first-round rookie they drafted this season is this Green Bay Packer team. So week 1, a good game for Jayden Reed. 3 catches, 45 yards, and he found the end zone. But the problem with Jayden Reed has been consistency, and he's not really a true number 1 wide receiver. He's more of a gadget and a slot type of guy is Jayden Reed. He's a good talent, no doubt about it. Green Bay as well is an offense where Jordan Love is the type of quarterback that likes to spread it out to all his targets. But consistency wasn't there last season, and I don't think consistency is going to be here this season as well for Jayden Reed. So after coming off a nice week 1, like I said, if one guy's going to emerge and be big time in this receiving room, I think it's going to be Matthew Golden. So Jayden Reed, definitely a wide out to sell this week. Final player I'd look to sell and trade is Kyle Pitts, senior of the Atlanta Falcons. So Kyle Pitts, it was a solid game for him in week 1, but we've been down this road 100 times with Kyle Pitts, where he's had a couple of good games. Everyone gets excited, and this season I wasn't buying into it with Michael Penix, the quarterback. And even after week 1, a good game, 7 catches, 59 yards on 8 targets. And even with possibly Drake London missing time, leaving the game early with a shoulder injury, I don't buy it. So coming off a nice game is Kyle Pitts. He looked good, no doubt about it. We also knew he was a good route runner, but he's had so many opportunities. And if this is the breakout year, good for him. But right now, I'm willing to go off a track record to sell Kyle Pitts this week. And week 2, it's a tougher matchup in Minnesota as well, where they're better defense than Tampa Bay. So Kyle Pitts coming off a solid game. A few players I look to sell and trade for week 2 of the fantasy football season.